Hello, everyone. Welcome to another webinar hosted by Seek and Andy Starnes of Insight Fire Training. We have Andy here who brings over 30 years of experience from his career as a battalion chief in North Carolina. So Andy, thank you for being here today to talk with everyone about the value of survey mode found in our Seek thermal cameras. If you guys have any questions, please just type them in the chat and we will do our best to answer them in a timely manner. And with that being said, I hope everyone enjoys it. And Andy, take it away.
Thank you, Jordan. So, you guys are familiar with the webinars. We provide them free, sponsored by Seek Thermal. They're done monthly and they're recorded and uploaded on 2 different YouTube channels after it's over. So if you missed it or didn't get to watch all of it, it's there. My name's Andy Starnes. I'm a retired battalion chief. I spent over 30 years total in the fire service, and I am currently the owner and operator of Insight Fire Training. I've helped several manufacturers with product development and consulting. I've been working with Seek for the past almost 4 years now, working and helped them with the development of 2 cameras, the Attack Pro and the Fire Pro 300. And we also have a collegiate level program through Western Kentucky University, and Kentucky Thermal Institute is the only firefighting thermal imaging certification in the world, which Seek Thermal is also a sponsor of, to take your education a little further if you'd like. My world's pretty simple. My wife and daughter are there. Sarah's technically the president and owner of Insight Fire Training. And then boss number 2 is Emma Starnes there. She is currently in driver's ed. So that's an interesting world for us. My world's very simple: my faith, my family, and the fire service in that order. I try to keep that in order, but if you know me, I'm a flawed human being and make mistakes, but I'm here to help people. So we work in behavioral health and thermal imaging. If you want to learn more about that, you can contact us, and I have a QR code there for a nonprofit that we support called 5 Alarm Task Force. This is our information on our program, which you may be interested in. That QR code takes you directly to the registration link, but you can watch this at your own pace, and we are going to go straight into our material. So survey mode, what is it? Why is it important? Why is it available? What's going on in the world of Seek Thermal? Well, survey mode is technically an investigative mode color palette that's been around for a long time. Technically, anytime we add color to something, it's called an isotherm in thermography, where we're going to highlight a specific area of interest. It's just how we highlight it and what temperature range and how it's done. So survey mode was originally available in the Fire Pro 300 and the Attack Pro VRS. Recently, Seek released the Attack Pro S, which is the Attack Pro model with just survey mode added to it. If you currently have an Attack Pro camera, the basic beginning camera when they first released it, there is an upgrade available. You can contact Seek Thermal or your vendor, which is preferred, to purchase the upgrade, and they can walk you through the process of the download, which is just a firmware update, and then you can operate with survey mode in that camera. The Attack Pro Plus, the upgrade available will be available soon. It is not currently there, but please watch for it as an NFPA certification camera. When they make modification, it does take time. So the 4 cameras that are available: the Attack Pro, which is your basic camera, you can purchase survey mode; the Attack Pro S, which comes with survey mode; VRS, which is video, record, and survey, and a slightly higher dynamic range, goes up to 1200 degrees; and the Attack Pro Plus, which is the NFPA certified camera. So those are the 4 decision-making cameras available through Seek, and how to get survey mode if you don't currently have it in an existing customer. As you've heard us talk about before, we talk about the rule of 2s when we talk about thermography, the 2 types, qualitative versus quantitative. We're doing qualitative thermography. We're looking for actual patterns of measurement, not actual temperature measurement themselves. And then we know there's 2 types of cameras: situational awareness and decision making. In this case, both of these application modes we're talking about today are available in the Fire Pro 200, the Fire Pro 300, and all of the Seek cameras will eventually have Attack Pro, or actually will have survey mode available to you, but they come standard in the S model and the VRS model. When we talk about the 2 modes of operations, cameras have an automatic, where you turn it on, go to work, they start up in TI Basic, and they have a selectable application mode, which is the focus of this webinar, which is survey mode. Survey mode, as I mentioned, is an investigative mode color palette designed to show colors and temperatures that are earlier than most cameras. Most cameras function in one of 4 ways, where they are either operate in a single gain or special application mode option, which is indicated by a plus symbol in the lower left-hand corner. They're either dual gain cameras, which started in 2013 to now, which is FLIR, Bullard, MSA, and Draeger. Then there are a few tri-gain cameras that have a much higher dynamic range of 0 to 2000 degrees Fahrenheit or 1000 degrees Celsius for my friends overseas, which is available in the Argus, Leader, and the formerly known as Scott X380, and a few rare international cameras. Seek Thermal is the only one that uses something called mixed gain mode, which each pixel operates independently between high and low gain, giving you a balanced image. So within that, they have the special application known as survey mode. If you look at these two pictures here, we're looking at the exact same Palmer Dollhouse demo burn we did overseas with my friend Anoop from Seek Thermal. And you can see that one of these application modes looks dramatically different than the other. You have a blue background, number one, which is that indicates you're in survey mode. It'll also have an S plus a plus symbol in the lower left-hand corner. And you'll notice whether you're in Fahrenheit or Celsius, you will see colors earlier. If you're in Celsius, you'll begin to see temperatures showing color at around 65 degrees Celsius. If you're in Fahrenheit, you'll begin to see it at 150 degrees Celsius. Well, why is that important? Well, your standard TI Basic cameras are default to start off in TI Basic, which is the NFPA certified color palette of black, gray, white, yellow, orange, red, with no more than 50% of the overall temperature range being in grayscale. And that is pretty much where the similarities end. When you go into a plus feature, they allow the manufacturer to give you different options. Plus has different enhancements and innovations per NFPA. You can read that in chapter 6. But it also has a requirement in these cameras that if you're in one of these application modes, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give you some operational guidelines. You're in TI Basic Plus, whether it's survey mode or another camera, just tap the green button if you need to go back to your standard TI Basic firefighting mode. And we're going to talk about why that's important, because these special application modes are not usually well suited for high heat environments. They are contextually specific for low temperature environments to help you find the problem easier. We have a little article that may help you with that called The Critical Role of Thermal Imaging Color Palettes in International Fire Safety Journal magazine from my friend Duncan White. You can check that out at your convenience. This is what TI Basic looks like in a standard Seek Thermal product. You'll notice grayscale is 0 to 301 degrees. Colorization begins at 302 degrees Fahrenheit or 150 degrees Celsius. And if you notice in the picture of one of my instructors with that really cool Taylor's 10 shields that stands out, you have a balanced image where you see the cooler areas in focus while still allowing you to see the hotter areas. That's the benefit of mixed gain mode. As the colors increase, therefore, so does the temperatures. The difference in Seek's products is, one, you can do it pixel by pixel, and two, they have two different dynamic ranges. Most of their cameras go up to 1022 degrees Fahrenheit or roughly around 450, 500 degrees Celsius, where the Attack Pro VRS goes up to 1200 degrees Fahrenheit or 550 Celsius. So keep that in mind. If you see two different temperature bars on those, that is why. Whereas survey mode, why it's beneficial to you, is it enhances your ability for earlier threat identification. Here's where I want you to really start honing in on why this is important. I have been teaching now for 16 years and been trying to get firefighters to pay attention to grayscale. And not under stress, when we're watching a video or doing training, we can all see grayscale convection currents pretty well. But when we go into an actual fire, sometimes these convection currents are hard to see and easily missed. The value of an investigative color palette is pretty evident in this little video here with a Fire Pro 300 looking up the stairs. We see convection currents, but it's hard to discern shades of white and gray and see which one is more thermally severe, where in survey mode, we think twice about what's going on upstairs. This changes our mind about a lot of things. Not that a firefighter couldn't make entry and go up there, but when do we open the nozzle? Which way do we bring the victim down? How much heat's actually upstairs? This is all what my good friend Dr. Gasway talks about, improved situational awareness. But we have to take that data and process it by using the proper application mode at the proper time. When we look at this in actual color palette, where you can actually see it broken down in this picture by Seek, where we have a picture from one of our trainings from Gilbert, Arizona, you can see that we start to see color earlier. The difference that's also pretty evident when you switch to survey mode is you have a monochromatic blue background instead of black, gray, white. You have a dark blue, lighter blue, and then a kind of a grayish, I guess, if you want to call it that. I'm not the best with blues. I've learned that 5% of the world is colorblind, and I have a little bit of problem with blues myself. So you start to see the edge of that temperature range where it starts to show yellows is around 65 degrees Celsius or 150 degrees Fahrenheit. For my good friends overseas, I've tried to list Celsius and Fahrenheit in here. I get a lot of that, so I want to make sure that everybody's covered. But as you can see in this picture, we can clearly see heat coming from right to left. We have a V pattern indicating that, and we see a lot of energy being absorbed by the firefighters who are flowing water in the wrong direction, which we're going to talk about why this mode is important to help you find problems faster, not waste water, not waste time, and potentially get injured or burned or worse. So this is your color palette or how this works. And keep in mind, this application mode has a maximum temperature range or dynamic range of 300 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you go in something hotter than that, the majority of it's hotter than that, you will lose discernible detail by getting a lot of red. That's when we tap that green button we talked about earlier and move back to TI Basic. Here's my recommendation to make your life easier. You have one of these on your fire trucks, whether it's a Fire Pro 200, Fire Pro 300, or a TAC Pro with survey mode. Turn it on the way to the call. Make sure it's fully powered up for 30 seconds, and then switch it to survey mode. So when you get off of the fire truck, it's ready to go. If you're walking up to the building and flames are blowing out of every window, you don't need survey mode. Tap the green button. You're going to have plenty of heat. You're going to need TI Basic, which will show you why. But if you have a ventilation limited environment, lots of smoke, flames are not clear, or the source of the location of the fire is not clear, I would start in survey mode for your size up and for your initial scan. If you see more than 50% of the screen go red, then you just tap that green button and you're back to standard firefighting. It simplifies things. You don't have to push a whole lot of buttons. You're set up for success and you're ready to go. This is where this really pays off. So engaging survey mode, to do that though, however, there's two ways. Most people know the first way. The second way is not currently listed in the instructions. They are adding a revised instruction manual to add this, so don't worry, it's coming. Option one, we press that button to the right that has the bright looking star or sun on it. That's the flashlight button. It also, if you notice, has a little plus symbol, which means I'm going into TI Basic Plus. I can press that button and hold it for 3 seconds and wait on the spot temperature to show up, which those of you who know me know I don't particularly care for the spot temperature. Then I press again for 3 seconds, and then it will switch to survey mode. The majority of firefighters I've met around the world have one universal trait. They're not very patient. So to make it easier, they have a simple quick change by pressing the power button in option 2 and the flashlight button simultaneously. Click it one time, you'll go from TI Basic and you'll turn on the spot temperature. Click it again and you'll be instantly in survey mode. Takes you about a second or second and a half to do so. Faster, easier, and then when you're in the fire, you don't have to take both hands off to press the buttons. Again, you just tap the green button with your gloved hand that you're carrying the device with if you need to switch back over. This makes your life simpler, easier, and smarter. We start off in first gear in a manual transmission, and we go to second gear as we get enough RPM as we drive down the road. You're going to start in survey mode, which is your first gear in a low temperature environment or doing size up or things of that nature. And then you can switch to second gear by going to TI Basic by tapping the green button if necessary. Makes our lives a little easier. Why is this so powerful? Here's why. It is very good early in the environment, early in the incident, or late. When we're making entry, we're remote from the fire during size up, where we don't have a clear delineation of where the fire is or how much heat we're actually experiencing. And here's why I'm so passionate about this particular application mode or any investigative mode if used properly. Firefighters miss the problem 99% of the time. They find the fire eventually, but what they end up doing is crawling through a very extreme, thermally severe, cumulative heat transfer environment that they don't realize how much energy they're absorbing. They open the nozzle, they think they've been steam burned, but the problem is they've been absorbing a vast amount of energy the whole time. 16 years of filming, I see a massive amount of firefighters leaving these buildings or moving through the environment with 250 to 400 degrees of energy sitting on their shoulders. Why do they have that much energy sitting on their shoulders? Their gear is designed to absorb energy. They're on a hose line. Why are they not preventing that? It's a good question. Depending on the situation, they're either not using a camera, or B, they don't know what they're looking at, or C, they have no idea how much energy is being absorbed because they don't view grayscale convection currents as a threat. The forced air oven test per NFPA 1971 is one of the ways they test your gear to failure. I need you to hear that again. Forced air oven test. That is a convection oven. When you're crawling through fast moving smoke in a flow path, you are the fuel or the food in the convection oven. Your goal is to make each space more tenable as you move through it, not just for you, but for the victim, the property, and the people that you serve, such as your fellow firefighters. But know that this particular application mode does have limits, as I mentioned. It is not recommended for high heat environments, and I don't personally recommend it for searching for people because of that lower cooler area turns dark and it's very hard for a lot of firefighters to see. So I simplify the world according to Michael Whitty's research paper. A fire service camera should have two application modes, fire and investigative. And this camera knocks those out of the park by giving you that simply and easy to switch, whether you're using their situational awareness camera, such as the 200 or 300, as you see here in the picture of the two 300s looking at Midland Fire and Rescue's training building. With Tim Mills, we helped set this up through Rowan back in January. You can see the picture taken by Scott Epstein that the one on the right is TI Basic. Would you be able to quickly differentiate under stress that both of those openings, the window to the left and the window to the far right, are the source of where the heat's coming from? Whereas we switch it to survey mode, it gives us an idea of where that heat is coming from. And we do need to check it out to confirm it. But as you see here per NFPA 1408, it tells you in chapter 7 that we shall be able to interpret the colors displayed and the temperatures or associated ranges that with those colors that are being specific to that camera being used. Why do they say specific to that camera being used? Because they're all different. I wish they were the same, but they're not. And that's our previous survey mode webinar. If you want to brush up on that, there'll be two of these on our YouTube channel, the original one and this upgraded one with newer pictures, newer videos for you to review. So keep in mind, this makes your job easier, especially under stress. And you have been up all night running calls and 3 in the morning, you're having to make quick decisions in a matter of seconds. You don't have time to study, analyze grayscale patterns. So we're trying to give you an easier way to identify these things. So where can I use these particular valuable investigative mode color palettes, such as survey mode? I can use it in size up, which is one of the main things they point out in near miss incidents and line of duty deaths is a incomplete or inadequate size up. They very seldom mention whether or not they use the camera or not. If you start using a camera in that size up, you start recognizing those heat signatures where the building is hottest, coldest, which is a huge benefit to know where potential survivable space could be and areas where the fire might spread to. And this can help you with your line placement and search priorities. Entry procedures. Where is the fire based on this? Am I far away from it and I can't see anything but grayscale and it's hard for me to see the convection currents? I switch it to survey mode and I can quickly see a heat signature down the hall to my left around the door frame, or I could see areas inside the room that I'm in, 2 rooms away from the fire, that are already poweralizing, like 2 couches and a chair that are showing yellow. Now, would you crawl past those couches without cooling? I was taught, oh, you're going to cause property damage. I got bad news for you. If it's in the flow path, it's already receiving damage. Your job is to stop the fire. And to do so, you need to stop the kinetic energy and the potential energy. Those potential objects right there, potential energy, are off-gassing. And if you have a door open and you have plenty of fuel, heat, oxygen, and an uninterrupted chemical chain reaction, you have the perfect environment for what my friend Mike Daly says, a stoichiometric reaction, where everything's perfect and we have fire. And usually it lights behind us. So this can help us, and especially in low heat scenarios such as warehouses, false alarms, things of that nature. And as my friend Dr. Gassaway talks about, I want y'all to see the bad things coming before they happen to you. This can improve firefighter situational awareness on numerous levels, such as helping us locate the fire faster, helping us with overhaul, locating hidden heat signatures, wildland fires. My friends in Canada dealing with that right now. Overheated electrical components, machinery, appliances, energized components, power lines that are down, generating heat on the other objects. Rehab and avoiding overexertion during training. This is pointed out in 1408 in one of the various topics in chapter 7 that you're supposed to be trained in every year. How can I do that? Well, if you're a live burn instructor or student, You come out and you say, I'm good for another run, and I look at your turnout gear and you're showing yellow and orange all over your gear. You're not good for another run. You're saturated. What does it do in your body too? Take the gear off, let it cool off, let your body have a break. There's no shame in having a Gatorade bottle and getting another air bottle, and then you can go back for another run. Don't max out the TPP of your gear without your knowledge and then move in and get burned, or worse yet, you're putting a whole lot of cardiac stress in your body and you don't know it. A lot of firefighters go home and say, I don't feel good and I'm going to lay down. And within 24 hours, they have a heart attack because they have no idea how much stress they put on their body. Pay attention to that. Okay. So here's our benefit to all this. Survey mode or investigative mode color palettes are a solution to a common problem, such as my good friend John here, John Lightly, showing us how this helps with the overhaul. This is a lot of work in this video. It's the Fire Pro 300 showing you how much residual heat is still in the first floor of this building, lath and plaster. So it can help us with that. But the biggest thing is if you read NIOSH reports and you listen to Mayday audio, even if you're just a firefighter who doesn't read all that and you hear it on the radio, you hear them saying encountering high heat conditions, difficulty in locating the fire. That's a bad sign. The other thing is incorrectly identifying the location of the fire. They're stretching the line the wrong place, but reading smoke only. That can get you in trouble if you don't combine reading smoke with heat. Unaware of changing conditions. They have no idea they're above the fire, they're in a full exhaust, missing or failure to locate heat signatures that are under 300 degrees Fahrenheit or 150 degrees Celsius. They go blow by 2 rooms of high heat and finally open the nozzle in the fire room, only to realize that, man, it's still hot in here. I wonder why. Because this building is designed to hold heat. And I didn't do anything to take the heat out of the walls or the furniture. I just put the fire out. So I still have a lot of heat and toxic gases in here. I have to ventilate and cool. Right? And then for my friends who are been on for a while, they'll appreciate this. How about we reduce on-scene times for false alarms? Odor of smoke, smell of something burning. How many times have you spent forever trying to find that problem after midnight? Now we can find that problem. And like I said, you can monitor crew safety at live burn incidents and more. These are just a few examples. They're not an all-inclusive or comprehensive list, but if you use this properly and know the limitations of the device, and remember, it's not X-ray vision, it's not a thermometer, it doesn't see gas temperatures, we're measuring surface temperatures. There are many areas where heat can be hidden from us, even in survey mode. So use it and then trust your training before technology to make sure that you don't miss a problem that could be an even bigger problem later. Here's some examples you may enjoy. Let's look at 2 containers, the exact same container. The one on the left is survey mode, the one on the right is TI basic. You notice the one on the left, there is a color gradient on the left-hand side of the container that's clearly visible, whereas on the right, it's just shades of gray on the left-hand side of the container. You can see that thermal layer in grayscale on the picture on the right, but if you look in survey mode, you can see that thermal layer much easier. And I got to ask you a blunt, honest question. Which one of these images is going to initiate a response from the average firefighter who has no training in thermal imaging or didn't pay attention in class or click through the Target Solutions PowerPoint that your department sent out and that was the only training you received? I want to make things easier, smarter, and safer for firefighters. I would rather them err on the side of water application by flowing too much water than not flowing enough. And then I read another report about someone burned, injured, or killed where they failed to identify that this was a severe environment. And I hear it all the time. Wasn't that hot? Wasn't that hot? You need to read the instructions on your turnout gear and realize your gear is not designed to take more than 500 degrees for a certain amount of time. You're like, well, my gear is rated for flashover temperatures. Yeah, you need to reread that. How many seconds that really is rated for, and is yours, your gear, your particular set of gear you own right now, is it rated for that? Have you been taking care of it? Is it wet? Is it dirty? Has it been sitting out in the sun? Do you not open the nozzle when you crawl down the hallway? All of that affects how much energy absorption you have until bad things happen to you. So let's take care of our gear, learn about the environment we're in, use the device to see the problem early, as my friend Mike Chapman says, and then mitigate accordingly. And these are some of my favorite pictures. I went through about year and a half worth of videos and photos and snapshotted some stuff out so you could just see the difference side by side here. And by the way, we film a lot. And if y'all don't know that, we film a lot. And it takes a long time to get these. The picture on the left is from Ohio Fire Academy, where the recruits are making entry for my good friend Rob Hammond. And then you look on the right, the same recruits making entry in survey mode. Look at the difference, what the average person would think. They look at that picture on the left. If they're in a hurry, they would not recognize those grayscale convection currents are a threat. The difference is when we switch to survey mode, it is colorizing those areas at a lower temperature correlation point. Starts at 150 degrees Fahrenheit, goes up to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. That does not mean that is how hot that is. That is an apparent temperature measuring those surfaces within its pre-programmed algorithm of how the camera is calibrated. We know for a fact a single candle flame is 1800 to 2400 degrees Fahrenheit. So we know the fire is much hotter than that. We also know we're not reading gases. Please do not call out spot temperature measurements on a fire, as where this firefighter made entry is definitely hotter than between 165 and 195 degrees. That is why NFPA removed the spot temperature in 2021 from TI Basic. Unfortunately, TI Basic Plus has the spot temperature added back. If you look at this video, this makes it a lot more clear. They're getting ready to make entry. That gray and white stuff is heat rolling out of there. That thermal layer about 2 feet from the ceiling down, or as my friends overseas, less than 1 meter from the ceiling down. And you shouldn't walk in like that, by the way. And here we go. We duck under and we don't flow. What are they taking? A massive amount of thermal insult. Is this firefighting? Or are we just entering the building and taking heat? That's my problem with training these days. So let's look at some fire attack examples and where this will pay off and what our limitations are. Number one, grayscale convection currents are often ignored or overlooked. And here's why. They're pretty clear on the camera when you're sitting here watching this video. But when I start getting gunk and moisture and stuff all over my face piece and I'm moving very fast and my average scan's 3 to 8 seconds, if convection currents look like gentle clouds, they're very hard to see. If you look at the picture on the bottom right in Gilbert, Arizona, this particular was our final evolution on our Teach Back day. We told them there was a fire in the basement. We told them where it was. This particular group did not do their scan adequately, and they went straight forward and started flowing water straight ahead and to their left. And after about 20 or 30 seconds, the crew leader realized he was feeling heat to his right. He turned and looked to the right with the camera and realized, wow, it's downstairs. If you look at these two images, survey mode's on the top. How much energy are they absorbing that you can clearly see versus in TI Basic, you have to differentiate shades of gray. Therefore, direction of fire is often easier to identify. And as we like to say in our classes, convection can tell you direction. Colorization can provide or hide information depending on the circumstances. And the thermal layer can point me to the fire. See that nice V pattern in the top image? As it tapers downward, where is it pointing to? The staircase, where there's a large amount of pallets downstairs. Gives you a hint. Watch the video and see if you can pick up on it. They make entry, very short scan, did not turn his body 180 degrees. The nozzleman moves in without flowing and then begins flowing straight ahead, creating a Venturi effect actually of pulling air and heat going that way because the fire is behind him. You may laugh at this, and the point is not to poke fun at this, but this happens on the fire ground. We correct this in training. They correct it. They see the issue. The problem here is they shut down and crawl in to the throat of the fire, the flow path. He realizes this is to the right. We crawl in here instead of using the reach of the stream first. And how much energy did they take? What's happening to their polycarbonate face piece during this time? Look how much energy they are absorbing. They start flowing, as you see, the color starts diminishing, and then we start to take back ownership of this compartment before they move down the stairs. That would have been more appropriate. We're allowed to make mistakes as long as we can correct them and move forward. It's when we can't correct them and we go out, unfortunately, in a body bag. We can't correct that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not telling you that a thermal imaging camera is going to replace you as a firefighter, but you need to know that the military uses everything they have to go after the target. Why are we not using everything we have to go after our target, which is the fire or to help the citizen? I've got some questions for my truckies. There are some big arguments on the world of Facebook, which I'm not a big fan of arguing because it's read in Proverbs, if you rebuke a mocker, what that means. Don't argue with people on Facebook. Just don't do it. It's just not worth it. It's not worth your time. Have a good conversation with somebody over the phone. And this conversation should start as this. Which way would you take the victim if you were upstairs and you located them? Would you take them out a window or would you take them down these stairs? Those who want to argue about vent inner search and all the different reasons why you shouldn't do it, it is one of the safest tactics for the citizen. Think about that. They're in their room. They're safe. They have the door closed because they listen to mom and dad and listen to fire prevention. You come through that window, you take them out immediately into an air space that is cool and away from the threat. They have such a much better chance of survival. You take them into that hallway with no PPE and no SCBA on, and we know this is not an accurate temperature measurement. We know it's not a thermometer, but if the floor is pushing up 200 plus degrees Fahrenheit, and we know this will kill someone, what did we just do to them? Think about that. Which one of these images captures your attention? And from suppression efforts before you moved up these stairs, would you open the nozzle in the first image or the second image? And I want you to think about this honestly. People want to argue about, well, grayscale is the best thing. Yeah, I agree. Grayscale is very powerful from the search aspect to diagnostic details. But when I talk about thermal severity, I'm trying to get people's attention. We need to have a color that shows up early while still allowing detail for decision making. That's why chapter 6 of NFPA says details within colorization shall remain resolvable up to the point of saturation, which is a fancy way of saying it needs to be a highlighter, not an opaque paint. So if color shows up, it should allow you to see through it. Know that sometimes that doesn't happen. So we're going to move down this hallway. Here's our challenge. We're going to attack this fire while the ladder company moves upstairs to search. Look at the first image and ask yourself, when would you open the nozzle? Which image would initiate a response? The fire's down the hall to the left. Grayscale convection currents are moving in the video, and you can clearly see that. But if a firefighter scans too quickly, they wouldn't see it. Whereas in survey mode, where we're remote from the fire, not only do we see that color gradient, as my friend Joe DeVito says, you should never have trouble finding the fire. You should follow the yellow brick road. Black, gray, white, yellow, orange, red. Boom, the fire's now dead. I went right to it. Use the reach of your stream, erase the color as you flow and move to the source. If you also notice from a search perspective, where is that yellow going in the upper left-hand corner of the survey mode image? It is going upstairs to any potential occupants that may be trapped. So if they start flowing early and keep the nozzle open, they are moving that heat and pressure back, contracting those gases with good coverage, and then upstairs starts to get better, especially if they have an outside vent man on the first floor and blow this stuff out the window. And then the search crew can also work under the protection of the hose line with relative ease. These are our basic tactics where just one simple application mode gives the firefighter a tactical advantage. Simple, easy. I'm not asking you to be a level 2 thermographer. I'm not asking you to go to thermology school. I'm just asking you to interpret the image correctly and then act accordingly. So let's do another one. Which way is the fire? TI basic on the left, survey mode on the right. And for my friends overseas, this one's in Celsius. So if we read grayscale really well, which most people don't, we see a big blob of white straight ahead on that wall. And then we see this shaded V pattern to the far left where the stairs, and there's also, if you look really closely, there's a doorway in the very, very far left corner. Or in survey mode, I've got color straight ahead with even a little bit of orange at the top of the ceiling. But to my left, I've got a V pattern. And in the video, I got movement. Oh, okay. How can I tell using this application mode exactly where the fire is? I know it's ahead of me, but if I sit right here, and as my good friend Kyle Robbins says, force the fire to talk to me by forcing a rebound, and I aggressively cool this space, wall, ceiling, wall, and then I go over there and I erase all that color. And I'm not talking about a 5-second burst, ladies and gentlemen. Your nozzle's ready for gallons per minute. Give it at least 20, 30 seconds. Allow it to reach down that hallway. And when you see the color go away, have them stop, wipe the lens, pick up the camera, and where the direction of that heat returns from, whether it's in grayscale or color, it will tell you the source of the fire. No longer does it have an advantage on you. watch the video and see if you can see the difference. See the V pattern to your left? See the higher colorization in the upper left-hand corner at the top of the stairs? And we see this orange right there on the wall. That is because the fire room is behind that, directly ahead of us. This is in Wayne Township in Indiana. Their burn building, it's a Forge Fire Company burn building, if I remember correctly. See the difference? If you understand this and use it properly and don't over rely on this, this can be a game changer for your fire grounds tactics and strategies. Whether you're the nozzleman, company officer, or the battalion chief, the incident commander, you can use these to make your incidents go better, smoother, faster. Don't we want to do our job faster? I see it all the time. Time is the enemy. Time is what we have, the equalizer. We have to get dressed, get out of the fire station on time. We have to know our streets. We have to mask up with gloves on. But yet we don't use a camera to find the fire faster. We use this to make ourselves quicker, because many people will argue on Facebook, say, well, that's wasting time. If a 6 to 8 second scan gives you more information that allows you to cut 1 to 2 minutes out of your incident action plan, it's not a waste of time. It's a valuable investment. Remember that, okay? Let's look at another example. Same burn building, but I'm looking from the side. This is actually the front of the building, the A side. In grayscale, there is convection currents coming from the far right corner where the firefighter walked out. In survey mode, I not only see convection, but I see some colorization. That's when I would use my stream, force a rebound, cool it, see what comes back. The greater the temperature difference, the faster the heat will return or transfer. It's basic physics. So if I create a massive cold spot and I haven't put out the fire, what's going to come back? The heat's going to return from the source and tell me which way it is. And this application mode gives me a better advantage or tactical advantage to see that if I will just use as my good friend John Dixon says, tactical patience. Instead of ready, fire, aim, how about I figure it out and then go and take it out? Pretty simple, but a lot of times that's lost. Here's a great one. I love this one. This one's actually from my friend John Dixon's facility in Sussex County. Since I mentioned him, it's in here. If you look in the first picture in TI Basic, you have that bright white blob at the top left-hand corner of the door. If I did a quick scan, and I mean quick, I've seen firefighters do what I call Star Wars lightsaber battles quick. I don't know how anybody processes information that fast. Even with 5 espressos, I can't process it that fast, and I like coffee. So if you look to your left, you'll see that V pattern in gray and white. But we're sitting here in our office or in our fire station where we're not stressed out, and that's easy to see. But when I add color, even if you've got really bad optically dense smoke, and you were able to pick that up, you would know the fire's to your left. Not only is it in that room based on the larger heat signature, but it's coming out of that room and heating up that ceiling and moving towards probably you. It's moving hot to cold, very quick, easy. It's not wasting time, using precious seconds to save minutes, as my friend and mentor Chief Mitchum says. Understand that. This is worth your time. And if you want to prevent what I call the filmmaker firefighter who's always staring at the camera, teach them to scan at each entry to each space and then put the camera down. They don't pick it back up again unless there's a problem or they're moving in that next space. Scans are like intersections. I pull up to an intersection, I look both ways, take my time so I don't pull out and get hit by a Mack truck. Then I drive. You scan and you go to work. Do not move with the camera in front of your face. That is why all my friends who teach exceptional fundamental classes hate cameras, because firefighters go in and become filmmakers with them. We don't want you to do that, okay? And for victim removal, look at this and look closely. If you were upstairs and you had to come down those stairs with the victim, would you think twice knowing how much heat you're exposing them to? Human skin is destroyed at 162 degrees Fahrenheit from Alice Stoll's work all the way back to 1967. We know from different respiratory studies that fatal airway damage can occur between 187 degrees Fahrenheit and 212 degrees Fahrenheit. And people aren't dying in saunas. I get that question a lot. Saunas don't get that hot inside your mouth. They're not allowed to get above 190. Read some sauna alerts on that. You'll figure that out. And firefighters do not feel temperatures this low due to what? Your PPE. It's insulative and it's protecting you. You don't typically feel pain or heat. So after your gear is saturated, which is usually after 500 degrees for 5 minutes, and slow cumulative heat transfer. Well, 500 degrees has killed some. You bring that child down those stairs. You bring grandma down those stairs because that's what you've always done. You didn't rescue them. You did body removal. You need to think the way you take them out and how you take them out, which is pointed out in the UL search study, which is one of the best studies they produced, and nobody talks about it very much other than my friend Sean Duffy. You need to read that. It has some really good information about the height of where you carry the victim and what we can do to take them away from the threat. And the camera can simply tell you which direction to go. Okay, it doesn't drag the victim out for you. It does give you thermal diagnostic data, which way to go and which way not to go. And when we're doing overhaul, which is everyone's favorite subject, this can help you dramatically by seeing what's left. We may have done a lot of work, flowed a lot of water, and maybe opened up a lot of walls. But some of you have some very challenging buildings, older buildings, renovated multiple times, knee walls, lath and plaster. You need a tactical advantage because some of them are going to hide heat signatures even with survey mode. You need to trust your training. And like I was taught years ago when we did overhaul, we pulled ceiling or lath and plaster or drywall until we got to clean wood. And then we always had a senior officer walk through and look to see what they missed. The problem was we didn't have cameras until 2003, 2004. So a lot of that behaviors of looking and checking were there, but we also needed to add the camera. When we added the camera, we didn't have training per se. And we started seeing firefighters say, hey, chief, the fire room's good at 74 degrees. No, we don't use spot temperatures in overhaul. Do not. You want an interesting understand that, watch our webinar, Thermal Imaging 101, where we talk about why these are not thermometers and how that has contributed to a lot of things, injuries and deaths and rekindles. But using the heat signatures in it that colorize early, it can be a great advantage and a great tool to help you, okay? And my friends in Canada and lots of other people deal with brush fires or wildland fires. It's a great example of seeing these often missed spots or heat signatures that would be in grayscale. This is also from Midland Fire and Rescue from instructor Tim Mills. You can clearly see where the spots are showing up right there underneath that burnout stump or piece of wood, whatever it is there, with some wire in the way. So that's an area we want to focus on. If you're a wildland guy or gal, you also know that it can hide things from you. My friend Gavin from overseas in Australia talks about peat fires and the insulative qualities of things. Always think about the context of where you're working and what can hide heat from me. And if I see heat here, where else do I not see it? Make sure you pull back around there, clean it out and check, because it's the areas we don't check because we think we're fine. But we don't go get, as the dermatologist taught me, you got to have margin. When he cut out the mole, he cut out some area around it. So why'd you go so far? Because I want to make sure I get anything that I missed. I have a good margin. Go wider than you need to make sure you don't miss something, okay? And then if you don't think this matters, this is probably the simplest, easiest explanation of why this matters. We took this video in Colorado. The fire is below us. And I want you to see, A, what you don't see in TI Basic and what you do see in survey mode, and why firefighters get in trouble even in training, because they ignore grayscale. Walking into the room, no big deal, right? You realize that's a full exhaust. Look at that. You think they're getting warm? If you're feeling heat and you're not seeing heat, you need to pay attention to your body. I want you to look at that again when I back this up. Look at where they're sitting. They're already saturated per the camera. And as the instructor walks in, you see the body change. Instantly start absorbing energy and the camera's detecting. Big difference between shades of gray and, man, that's hot. You know, we're pushing 300 at the ceiling, 250 at the floor in some areas. You're standing at the top of the chimney. They know that because this is in training. The difference is they don't recognize the threat because we haven't prioritized this in our training, and we still are trying to prove how tough we are about how much heat we can take. As my friends at Multiple Calls podcast say, it's not how much heat you can take, it's how much heat you can kill. We're there to help people, save lives and property, not melt borks and brag about how we have asbestos hands, okay? And in conclusion, you need to know when not to use survey mode. A good friend of mine, Kevin O'Donoghue, who invented the Hydrovent nozzle, He's one of the few people that shows people how not to use his product. I think that's extremely impressive and humbling, and it's a testament to his character, because most people will tell you the good of everything. They won't tell you when not to use it. Friends who are paramedics understand the words contraindication. Yes, I brought EMS into it again. Someone will be upset. Look at this ARF training prop where I used to work when I was at the airport, and notice how much heat signature is visible, just residual, after we have turned off the gas burners. We're going to switch it to survey mode, and the gas burners or ignition pilots are off. I want you to see how much heat's still left in this fuselage prop, basically to mimic a C-130. That's pretty warm, but that's residual heat. The instructor is going to come in from the right-hand side, close the door, tell the students that they can begin here shortly. He has to give the thumbs up to tell the igniter to light the fire. He walks back, boom, a wave of color, too much color. It saturates and blocks out all the detail. We're going to switch it to TI Basic because of mixed gain mode. It balances out the image, and here we come to fight the play fires, I call them, because they're Class B fires. Massive amount of heat, right? But you can see this image better because the TI Basic is designed to see up to 1,025 or 1,200 degrees, depending on which attack pro you're using. Whereas if I was just in survey mode, it would just be washed out with red. Pick the right application mode for the right context. Be smart enough to know when to use it, when not to. As my friend Mike Chapman says, these are used for early or late in the incident, not during the middle of the firefight. And if you want to learn more about everything we shared with you, we do this with every webinar. We have our free YouTube channel where everything is uploaded, organized by playlist, brands, models, and webinars. We have a link on our website that puts all the webinars on one page from Seek Thermal. It's 21 hours. It will have this one once we get the recording. And those you want to copy the presentation, you don't have to email me. You just scan this, and you're going to Insight Training's public share folder. There's lots of content in it. It's not all Seek Thermal related, but you'll see one called Seek Thermal Public Share Folder, and you'll see folders for every webinar, one of which will say the value of survey mode. It will have this presentation and every video that's in this and a few more for you to use. All we ask is you tag or mention Insight Fire Training when you use it. I want to thank you for your time. I hope that you learn to use these investigative color palettes reasonably, use them properly, and understand survey mode from Seek is a game changer because it shows color earlier than any other camera on the market. As far as the automatic settings of it, you don't have to push any additional buttons. You set it and go to work. And if you go into a high heat environment, remember, tap the green button, go back to TI Basic, go to work. You don't have to stare at the screen or toggle, press buttons. This camera makes your life easier. So this is my contact information. We're on all the social media platforms, and you can reach out to us or any of my team. We will be glad to help you. Thank you for your time. God bless. And I'll hand it back over to you, Jordan.
Great, thank you. If you guys have any further questions after this webinar, please feel free to reach out to me directly or Andy, as we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. If there's something that Andy mentioned that you wanted to go back and reference from this webinar, we will be sending out a recording to everyone who registered within the next day. And again, thank you, Andy, for your time, and thank you, everyone, for registering for today's webinar.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, everyone. Take care. See you at the next one.